let's get this car warmed up. Alright, so hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Nathaniel, and in this video I'm also going to show you a few tips and tricks on how you can make your astrophotography and your star photos look a little bit better than this video looks right now. So to have the best chance of seeing something like this, obviously you want to get away from light pollution. You want to get away from the city, get in your car and drive until you cannot see any more lights. At the moment, I'm heading to a place called Lincoln's Rock in the Blue Mountains, and there's nothing particularly special about this place. There's no real geological formations or anything like that. It's just a big, flat, open rock, and it gives me a big panoramic view of the sky, and hopefully I'll be able to showcase a few of these ideas and tips and tricks whilst I'm there. So whether you're heading out to take photos of the Aurora Australis or just the galaxy in general, the main thing that you'll need is a camera. The bigger the sensor, the better, but any camera will work for this. And to demonstrate this fact, I'm bringing with me a Panasonic GH4, which has a micro four thirds sensor, and I'm also bringing in a Sony a7 IV, which has a full frame sensor. The second thing that you'll definitely need for this is a tripod. You can sometimes just balance the camera on a rock or just put the camera straight on the ground and shoot straight up. But if you want to compose your shot in any way, shape or form, a tripod is going to help you dramatically with this. The main objective from having a tripod is to keep your camera as still as possible. And I'll go into the reasoning why once I get there. The reason for this is because of how dark it is out here. In order to adequately light the world around us, we need to take a much longer photo to absorb as much light as we can. To do this, you need to change your camera shutter speed anywhere from 10 to 25 seconds. You can go longer than this, but anytime I go longer than 30 seconds, the spin of the Earth actually blurs out the stars and they become small lines instead of little dots, and it decreases the sharpness of your image overall. Whilst you're playing with your camera settings, crank your f-stop down to as low as it'll go, to the lowest number possible. This opens up the lens and gets a lot more light in, and whilst this would add significant depth and blurriness to the background of a standard image, with star photos, they are so far away it doesn't really matter. Next thing you want to adjust is your ISO, starting low to keep the graininess of your image down and working up until you're happy with it. This type of photography is a little bit like fishing, and sometimes you're waiting 25 seconds for the photo to take itself, and then you're waiting another 25 seconds for your camera to then render that photo whilst it's really cold. So when it's roughly one photo per minute, you can be shooting for a while. So you want to make sure that you get it right, but you also want to make sure that you're rugged up and nice and warm. I did this in shorts in -6 degrees in the Dolomites and was forced to stop because my camera actually started to crap out, and the batteries only lasted about 15 minutes each. It was that cold. Anyway, these are the settings I've landed on for the GH4, and this is the photo I captured. And these are the settings that I've landed on for the Sony a7 IV, and this is the photo that I've captured. It should be noted that both of these cameras are using a 50mm lens with an f-stop of 1.8. Both are very cheap lenses and both very budget friendly. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. These are also both edited using Nathaniel's Life astrophotography presets, and you can check those out at mahimedia.au if you'd like to use those. So that's how you photograph the stars, but what about doing a time lapse? This is where the Panasonic really shines, as it has a built-in intervalometer, and it can do this really easily by changing it into sequential shooting mode. If you want to do this on a Sony, you either need to change it to slow and quick mode or pick up a timer remote and put your settings in the remote to match whatever settings you're shooting with. Because if you put in 30 seconds between shots on the remote, but the camera takes a minute to process each photo, it's not going to work very well. So there's a bit of a process to work out here, and the same process goes for the GH4, but it's all internal, so it's a little bit easier. So having the sequential shooting mode on the Panasonic is an awesome feature to have built in, and it's a massive advantage in my opinion. Unfortunately, there's not one that I can demonstrate in this video because I dropped this camera off a crane and smashed the screen. So I'm going to have to set this up as a time lapse, let that run, and demonstrate how to set up the slow and quick settings on the Sony. So whilst the Panasonic is over there taking a photo every 90 seconds, the slow and quick mode on the Sony is actually producing a video file. To do this, you need to go into your settings and change the frame rate to go down to 1 frame per second. The main downside to this is you can only crank the shutter speed down to 1 second, whereas the Panasonic has taken a photo with a 30-second shutter speed and it's able to pull in more light. However, the Sony does have a bigger sensor and better ISO control, so let's crank the ISO up to a suitable level and let's see how they turn out. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. These are also edited using my Nathaniel's Lifestyle preset pack, which is available at mahimedia.au if you want to try them out for yourself. So just for some fun, I'm going to leave the Panasonic just running here doing that little time lapse, and with the Sony I'm going to run around and get a few better lenses and see what I can come up with. Now my personal favourite lens for astrophotography is a 14mm 1.8 G Master, and while this is a very expensive lens, I have had the 14mm 2.8 Samyang for close to 6 years, and I've literally used it to death, and this is a fantastic cheaper alternative as well. Now, when using a wide-angle lens, it's very easy to get a blurry image from even just the slightest movement. One thing that I like to do to minimize this is use the timer setting when you're taking a photo. Once your shot is composed, press the shutter and move your hand away from the camera. The slight pressing of the button can cause the camera to shake a little bit, and this results in a blurry image. You can also use a shutter remote for this, but I prefer the self-timer just for a run and gun setup. I also have the 85mm 1.8 Sony lens, and this is a great portrait lens for sure, but tonight I'm going to use it to snipe some aliens or large clusters of stars. As we're starting to get a little bit more zoomed in here with the 85mm, I thought a good tip to share would actually be focusing on the stars. Using manual mode for focusing and using the spot focus zoom tool on one of the brightest stars that you can see on your screen. Adjust your focus until it is the smallest dot possible, and this will ensure you have a crystal clear focus on your stars. Also, just for fun, I have this 400mm Sigma lens that I bought from an op shop for like 50 bucks. This is only f5.6, but the further you zoom in, the more the depth of field begins to matter again. Again, any little shakes with this lens and you'll get a blurry image. But the wildest part about this is what you can see in these images afterwards. The further you zoom into the galaxy above, the more and more stars you can start to see. It is a wild thing to stand underneath and photograph. It'll change your perspective on a lot of things, teach you some patience and lots of tips to stay warm in the cold. I would highly recommend this type of photography, and that is why I've made this video for you to enjoy. Hopefully you enjoyed this adventure. Like it if you liked it, subscribe if you want to. I make a whole bunch of different random videos like how I'm building this truck and other things like that. Feel free to check it out. Feel free to check out Nathaniel's Life on Instagram, and if you're interested in any presets, head along to my professional page, mahimedia.au, to check those out. That's a website and it's also my Instagram handle as well. Mahimedia offers photography and videography solutions, mainly focusing on weddings, real estate, construction and music videos, but I'm open to any opportunities that you may have. Currently based in New South Wales, Australia, but open to work worldwide, I often use the techniques shown in this video to achieve unique perspectives on my clients' work, and I really do hope to make this a full-time operation someday. Any support, even if it's just a follow or a share with someone that might be interested, is greatly appreciated. Wishing you all the best with your astrophotography. Please feel free to tag me in any photos you take. I would absolutely love to see them. Stay safe out there in the dark and be sure to stay warm too. Happy snapping.